Your mind can take one email and turn it into a crisis, a deadline, an awkward talk, that worry about money. It grows until it fills everything you see. Marcus Aurelius was a Roman emperor. He dealt with pressures we can hardly imagine, running an empire, commanding armies, endless political games. But in his own journal, he wrote something very simple for keeping calm. He said to often look at human life as a whole, to see the huge stretch of time and space, and to notice how rapidly every single part of things is changing. He was talking about a mental exercise, the view from above. It's a Stoic method. It's meant to shrink any problem down to its actual size, so by the end of this, you'll have a guide. A step-by-step way to use this old modern anxiety to find some immediate clarity. How can zooming out into the cosmos make daily stress feel manageable? What did the Stoics know about our brains that makes this work now? When was the last time you really measured your life against the backdrop of everything? That mental zoom out he practiced, they call it the view from above. It's a specific kind of inner vision, a deliberate act of perspective. You start right where you are, in your room with that heavy feeling in your chest, and you begin to pull back. You see the walls of your home from the outside, then your street from above. Your neighborhood becomes a tiny patch on a map. Your city is a cluster of lights. Your country is just a shape. The planet itself is a pale blue marble, floating in a silent, black ocean of space. You keep going. You see the solar system, a few specks orbiting a star, the Milky Way, a vast spiral of billions of stars, and beyond that, a universe of countless galaxies. At the same time, you pull back in time. You see your life not as the entire story, but as a brief, single chapter in a book that spans millennia. You see the generations before you, their own struggles and joys, all now resting in history. You see the generations that will follow, who will never know your name. That's the core of the exercise. It's not meant to make you feel insignificant. Its purpose is to restore proportion. That urgent email, that financial worry, that social slight when placed against the backdrop of a spinning planet in an ancient cosmos, it finds its actual size. The Roman Stoics didn't use this to avoid their duties. Marcus Aurelius used it while governing. He needed clarity, not escape. He needed to see that the day's crisis was just one small event in the long flow of human affairs. This practice doesn't dismiss your problems as meaningless. It simply asks you to measure them with a different ruler, a cosmic one. When you do, something quiet and powerful happens. The noise of the immediate moment begins to fade. You are not at the center of the universe anymore. You are a participant in it. And that shift, from being the star of a stressful drama to being an observer of a vast, beautiful story, is where tranquility begins. So how do you actually do this? How do you move from understanding the idea to feeling its effect? A single email can feel like a catastrophe. The Stoics had a word for that. They called it an impression. An impression is just the raw data, the sound of the notification, the words you see on the screen, but the panic, the heavy feeling, that's not the impression. That's your judgment. You add that instantly. Your mind takes that neutral event and wraps a story around it. This is bad. This means I'm failing. This will lead to disaster. And that story is what you feel. It's not the event itself. Epictetus put it clearly. He said we're disturbed not by things, but by the views we take of them. Your default perspective is narrow. It's focused on the self. It's a survival mechanism, always scanning for threats to your status, your security. So a critical comment becomes an attack. A delayed project becomes proof you're inadequate. The Stoics saw this pattern. They diagnosed this cognitive bias 2,000 years ago. Your brain, left alone, is a master of magnification. It takes a small stone, a problem, and casts a giant, frightening shadow. The view from above is the act of stepping out of that shadow. It's correcting your judgment by changing where you look from. It answers what's in our control. You can't control the impression. You can't stop the email from arriving. But you have complete authority over your judgment of it. You can choose to see it differently, not as a world-ending crisis, but as a tiny speck on a vast planet. A brief moment in a long life, that's the core of the Stoic remedy. First, see the mechanism. See how your mind inflates things, then introduce a new measurement. Marcus Aurelius wrote those words for himself. He wasn't writing for anyone else. In the early morning, probably by candlelight, he would open his journal. He was the emperor, the most powerful man in the world, and yet his pages are full of these reminders to step back, to see things from a wider angle. This wasn't philosophy as an academic subject. It was a tool, a mental tool he used to handle the pressure, the sheer weight of his position. Seneca said something similar from a different place. He wrote to a friend going through a hard time. His advice was to rise above it, to look at the human scene from above. Imagine looking down from a cliff. You see the crowds, the arguments, all of it, and from that height you see how small it really is, how temporary, and that's the key thing to see here. These weren't detached thinkers in some ivory tower. Marcus Aurelius was running an empire. He was dealing with wars, famines, political plots. Seneca was a wealthy advisor who would eventually be ordered to kill himself by an emperor who distrusted him. Their world was unstable. Their problems were literal matters of life and death, war and peace. And yet, the remedy they prescribed is the same one we might use for a stressful week at work or a personal setback. They argued that the human mind has this habit. It takes whatever is right in front of it and blows it up. It makes that one thing fill your entire view. The Roman Empire is gone, but the structure of human anxiety, it hasn't really changed. So what does that mean? It gives this idea a deep kind of credibility. This isn't a modern self-help trend. It's more like a piece of cognitive technology, tested over 2,000 years, tested in situations far more intense than what most of us will ever go through. If this practice could bring some calm to a man guiding an empire through plague and war, what could it do for the overwhelm you might feel today? The scale of our problems might be different. But the internal mechanism, that feeling of being swallowed by a problem, that's a universal experience. The need for perspective doesn't have an expiration date. The view from above was their answer, a way to manually adjust the focus of a mind that so easily gets the important and the urgent blurred together. The cosmic view is a leap. You can't go straight from a racing mind to the stars. You need a place to stand. The Stoics knew that. They valued a clear mind, a mind not lost in stories about what happened or what might happen. So the first step isn't to zoom out. It's to zoom in, to arrive in the room you're in the body you have right now. Before you see the vastness, you have to see what's immediate. Your mind is probably in a loop, replaying a talk, forecasting a problem. To break that, you need an anchor, something physical. Feel your feet flat on the floor. Notice the weight in the chair. Take one slow breath. Feel the air moving in and out. This isn't about emptying your mind. It's about changing what it's focused on. You shift attention from the turbulent story in your head to the quiet reality of your body. This grounding has a purpose. It creates a stable launch pad. You can't take an accurate measurement from a platform that's shaking. By bringing awareness to your breath, to your feet, you interrupt the momentum of anxious thought. You press pause for a moment. You're not the problem you're worrying about. You're just a person breathing in a room. That moment of simple awareness is the cornerstone. It's recognizing what's happening right now without the added layer of judgment. From that slight calm, you've created a choice. Your mind isn't hurtling on its own track anymore. You've guided it to a stop. Now you're ready to begin the ascent. With your feet on the ground of the present, you can look up. You can start the journey to a wider view. That transition from chaos to calm observation is where the real magic of this begins. Your room becomes a small box. You see the ceiling, the furniture from a new angle, like you're floating just below it. And the sound of your own breathing, the hum of a computer, they start to feel more distant, more contained. You rise higher. The walls of your building fall away, and you see its roof, its shape against the ground. Your street unfolds below, a ribbon connecting other homes, other lives. That car parked outside, the one that seemed so important, it's just a colored dot now. You keep going up. Your neighborhood reveals its pattern, the grids of streets, the patches of green, the clusters of houses. Thousands of individual stories are unfolding right now. Yours is one of them. That specific problem, the one that felt so enormous, it's contained inside one of those tiny structures. You see it all at once. The school, the shops, the parks, the entire ecosystem of your daily life laid out like a map. You hear the faint murmur of the city, no longer distinct voices but a soft, collective hum. You rise until you see your city or town as a whole, its borders, its rivers or roads like arteries. From here, your home isn't even a dot you can pick out. It's part of a texture, a single thread in a vast tapestry. That's the first real shift in scale. You're no longer inside the problem. You're observing the container it exists within. The urgent thought is still there, but it's located now. It has an address on a map you can see in your mind. It occupies a physical space that is, objectively, a very small space. This stage isn't about making your concerns vanish. It's about giving them a true location. Your worry isn't everywhere, it's right there, in that one small part of the larger, functioning system below. And seeing that, that's the beginning of a relief. The city lights become this dense cluster on the land, and you keep rising, and its shape blurs into the landscape. Rivers are silver threads, mountains are gentle wrinkles. You see the whole country now, its outline against the ocean. It's a map you've seen, but never like this, not as a place you're in, but as an object you're looking at. The distance you've traveled in your mind is immense. That room, that worry, exists somewhere inside that intricate shape below. Now pull back further. The continent emerges. You see how your country fits against its neighbors, connected by land and history. You see the scale of it. From this height, human divisions, borders, cities, are just lines we've drawn. They look fragile. What's real is the land, the coastlines, the forests, the great pulse of weather moving across it. And this is the principle: geographical scale. Your problem has a physical location. It's anchored to one tiny point on that continent, but from here you can't see it. You can't pick out your street, your home, the chair you're sitting in. They're absorbed into the whole. Now hold that image, that entire landmass teeming with life. At this moment, millions of stories are unfolding. A child takes a first step in a home you'll never see. A scientist notes a discovery. An artist mixes a color. Someone shares a meal. Someone else faces a challenge that feels to them just as all-consuming as yours. Each of those lives contains a universe. Your concern, as weighty as it feels, is one point of light in a galaxy of them. This isn't to minimize your experience. It's to contextualize it. Your story is important. It's yours, but it's not the only story being told. This shift from the solo narrative to the collective tapestry is coming. It loosens the ego's grip. You are living a life, but you are also one life among many on a vast continent under the same sky. That perspective doesn't erase your duty to handle your affairs. It removes the false urgency, the imagined catastrophe. It lets you see your next step not as a desperate scramble, but as a single, deliberate move in the complex game of being human. The noise fades into a quiet hum, and from this new silence, a clearer kind of thinking can begin. The continent gets smaller, the blue takes over, oceans everywhere, and the land is just these shapes now, like pieces floating on a dark sea. You keep going up until you see the whole planet, a sphere with white clouds and the browns and greens and this thin, glowing layer around it. It just hangs there. In complete silence against the black. This is what the astronauts talk about, that shift in awareness. They call it the overview effect, and it changes you. From here, there are no borders, no countries, no arguments, just this one fragile world. Back in 1990, the Voyager 1 spacecraft, its mission done, turned its camera around for a last look. From about 6 billion kilometers away, it took a picture. In that picture, Earth is a tiny, pale blue dot, a speck of dust hanging in a sunbeam. Carl Sagan, the astronomer, he thought about that image. He wrote that everyone you ever loved, everyone you ever heard of, every human who ever lived did it all on that speck. All our joy and suffering, every king and peasant, every inventor and explorer, every saint and sinner, all of it happened there. On a mote of dust, that photo, it's a modern version of something Marcus Aurelius was reaching for in his mind. He wrote in his journal, "Look at the earth from above. Plants, animals, people scattered on the surface, and then think about your life in that context." He called the earth a mere point in the universe, and our place on it just a tiny corner. That's the planetary view, and its main gift, it's not insignificance, it's humility, a deep, calming humility. Your life, with all its complicated worries and its big hopes, is happening on that pale blue dot. That conversation you're rehearsing, that financial pressure, the ambition driving you, all of it exists inside this thin, glowing bubble of atmosphere that keeps the whole experiment going. From this vantage point, our human dramas aren't trivial, they're precious, they're everything we have, but they're also contained. They're happening here on this one small world. The cosmic silence around it, it puts a frame around our noise. It doesn't make the problems go away. It makes the container visible, and that container, for all its beauty, is heartbreakingly small and fragile. That realization, it shrinks the ego, not the soul. It quiets the petty fears and it amplifies what actually matters. The love, the creation, the connection. That's what fills this tiny, precious dot with meaning. When you hold this image in your mind, even briefly, the scale of your personal anxiety, it recalibrates. It finds its proportion. You are not the center of the universe. You are a conscious part of its most rare and wonderful expression. And from that place of humility, a different kind of strength comes out. The strength to engage with your life, not from frantic self-importance, but from a place of clear, quiet participation. That pale blue dot is moving through time, not just space, and that's the other half of the view from above. If pulling back in space makes a problem seem smaller, pulling back in time makes it feel lighter. Your mind is wired to treat the present as permanent. A bad day feels endless. A worry feels like it will define you forever. The Stoics saw this. They called it the illusion of permanence. To break that, you have to shift your vantage point in time. So keep that feeling of looking down from a great height. But now, instead of moving outward, look backward. Think about your life 1 year ago today. Where were you? What was the biggest thing on your mind then? Maybe it was a project at work that felt make or break. A tension in a relationship that seemed impossible to fix. A money decision that kept you up at night. Can you even remember the exact texture of that anxiety now? For most of us, those sharp edges have blurred. The problem got solved, or it faded, or it turned into something else. The emotion you felt so intensely, the dread, the frustration, it passed. It was a weather system in your mind. It came, it rained, and it moved on. But in that moment, it felt like the whole climate of your life had changed. Now pull back further. Think 10 years ago, a full decade. That's a substantial chunk of time. Who were you then? What were you striving for? What were you afraid of? The landscape of your life was almost certainly different. The job, the home, the people you spent your days with, the worries that felt so huge at 25 often sound like distant echoes at 35. Not because they weren't real, but because you grew around them, you navigated through. Time gave you the context the present moment always withholds. Now take the biggest step back. A century ago, the year was 1924. The world was recovering from a global war. Your great-grandparents might have been children. They had their own fears about health, about providing for a family, about a world changing too fast. Their joys and sorrows were just as vivid, just as real to them as yours are to you. And where is all that lived experience now? It rests in history, in faded photographs, in old letters, in stories told around a table. The intense immediacy of their lives has softened into legacy, into memory. That's the temporal view, and its lesson is the transient nature of all things. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this constantly. He said, "Think of the whole of existence, of which you are the tiniest part. Think of the whole of time, in which a brief, fleeting moment has been assigned to you." He wasn't being morbid, he was being precise. He was installing a mental filter to strain out the false permanence that anxiety needs. Your current worry, no matter how heavy, is a temporary guest. It has moved into the house of your mind, and it's making a lot of noise. The practice is to remember it is not the owner. It is not a permanent resident. Time, the quiet landlord, will eventually ask it to leave. Sometimes you have to show it the door through action. Sometimes it just packs up and leaves on its own. But it will go. This realization doesn't lead to inaction. It leads to clear action. When you see your distress as a passing storm, not a new eternal season, you can address it without panic. You can ask a better question, not "How do I survive this forever?" but "What is the sane, principled step to take while this is here?" That shift changes everything. It turns a crisis into a manageable event. It turns overwhelm into a sequence of choices. So hold both views together now, the spatial and the temporal. You are a conscious being on a small planet, living a brief, beautiful chapter in a story that spans centuries. From that vantage point, what does your problem look like? It likely looks like what it truly is. A specific challenge to be met with courage, a piece of data to be assessed with reason, or a passing feeling to be observed with compassion. It is a scene in your play, not the entire script, and knowing that, you can finally breathe. You can step back onto the stage of your life, not as a frantic actor trapped in a single line, but as the director who sees the whole act and knows the play goes on. That long line of time isn't empty, it's full. Every point on that line was a person, breathing, worrying, hoping, just like you do. You can think of that timeline as a path. And if you walk it, you see them, not as names in a book, as fellow travelers. A parent 2,000 years ago, trying to keep their children safe through a cold winter. Feeling a fear they couldn't even name. An artisan 500 years ago, their hands aching from the work, wondering if their craft would be valued. A student a century ago, sitting by a lamplight, anxious about an exam that would shape their whole future. Their clothes were different, their tools were different. But the inner landscape, that was the same. The hope for security, the fear of failure, the longing for connection, that's a shared territory. Your current struggle, whatever it is, with its modern packaging, it's not a new invention. It's a variation on a very old theme. The human condition comes with a set of challenges: uncertainty about tomorrow, the pain of loss, the effort it takes to build something good. Those are the constants. The specifics change, but the core experiences, they echo down through the centuries. When you feel isolated, this is the antidote. You are not the first to stand here. You are part of a chain, an unbroken chain of people who faced down their own version of this moment, who felt that same clutch in the chest, and who, most of them, found a way through. Their resilience is your inheritance. This isn't about comparing pain. It's not saying others had it worse so yours doesn't count. It's about companionship. It's realizing you are not alone in the dark. Generations before you, they lit candles in this same darkness, and their light, accumulated, makes the path a little easier to see. Your chapter is brief, but it's connected to every chapter that came before. The courage they founded can become part of the courage you access. Seeing your life as part of this grand, ongoing story, it does something. It transforms a personal problem into a shared human experience. The weight doesn't vanish, but it is distributed. You are no longer carrying it all by yourself. You're carrying it with the silent support of everyone who has ever had to carry a weight of their own. That connection, it shrinks the ego's cry of why me. It replaces it with something quieter. A steadier truth. This too is part of the journey, and from that place, that shared humanity, a deeper patience can take root, a deeper compassion. For yourself, the planetary view is a humbling thing, but you have to keep going. You have to leave that blue dot behind. The earth becomes a grain of sand. The sun is just a bright star. You see the arrangement, the solar system, those planets from school, their silent worlds orbiting in a dark quiet. This is your local neighborhood. And it's almost all empty space. The distances between these worlds are so vast, they're incomprehensible. They defy our everyday sense of scale. Pull back further. That sun, so central to our lives, becomes another point of light. One of hundreds of billions, swirling together in the great spiral of the Milky Way. From here, our whole solar system is lost, a speck within a speck, an insignificant detail in a colossal, spinning city of stars, and you're still not done. The galaxy itself becomes a smudge of light. You see it next to countless other galaxies, each one an island of billions of suns, stretching away into the darkness as far as any telescope can see. This is the observable universe, an expanse of staggering size and age. The human mind can't grasp it. We're talking distances measured in billions of light years. A timescale so long that all of human history is less than a blink. This is the ultimate view from above. Its purpose isn't to crush you with meaninglessness. It's to offer the final piece of context. Your life, with all its worries and joys, is happening here, in this one tiny corner of one galaxy, for a span of time so brief it can't be measured on the cosmic clock. The Roman Stoic Seneca touched on this. He wrote, "What is the part of life, however long, that is not merely a moment when placed against nature's eternity?" He wasn't despairing. He was pointing to a truth that can set you free. When you internalize this scale, a serene acceptance becomes possible. The pressure to be everything, to control everything, to make your mark on the universe, it gently evaporates. You see, you were never meant to carry that weight. You are a temporary, conscious expression of the cosmos, a fleeting note in a beautiful, endless song. This realization is the opposite of nihilism. It's a deep belonging. Your problems, seen from this starry height, aren't trivialized, they're framed. They're the natural challenges of a conscious being having a human experience, on a small rock for a little while, and from that framing you gain a new courage. The courage to engage fully precisely because it's fleeting, to love deeply because connection is the miracle, to act with integrity not for eternal glory but because it's the right thing to do. In your brief, precious chapter, the cosmic view doesn't shrink your life, it clarifies it. It strips away everything that's not essential, leaving only what truly matters. And from that quiet, star-filled silence you can return to your world, to your one room on that one pale blue dot, and you'll find everything looks different. The air feels clearer, the colors seem brighter, and that problem waiting for you, it hasn't changed, but you have. You see it now for what it always was. A small piece of a much larger, much more beautiful story. The view isn't the destination, it's the preparation. The point of going up that high is to come back down. To return to your body, in your room, with that quietness from the cosmos still inside you. This is the final part, the return, and this is where the practice gets practical. You don't stay up there floating, you bring the stars back with you, so you reverse the motion, you let the galaxies fade, the Milky Way shrinks back to a point of light. You find the pale blue dot again, and you move toward it. You come down through the atmosphere, over the continent, the city, your neighborhood. You see your street, your home, your room. And you settle back into your body, the feeling of the chair, the sound of your breath. You are here now, but you're not the same person who left. You've been on a voyage. And you brought back a souvenir. It's a new lens, a new way of seeing. So you turn your attention gently to the thing that was troubling you, the email, the conflict, the deadline. And you ask the only question that matters now. With this perspective, what is the true size of my problem? You measure it against the yardstick you just held. The yardstick of continents and centuries and galaxies. And the answer is almost never dramatic. It's quiet. It's a recalibration. The problem hasn't vanished. But its emotional weight has been corrected. It's no longer a monster blocking your path. It's a task, a conversation, a piece of paperwork, a manageable event in a specific place at a specific time in your very brief and very precious life. This is the clarity the Stoics wanted, not detachment but right-sized engagement. You see the problem for what it is, stripped of the catastrophic story your mind had wrapped around it. From this place, your next action becomes obvious, not fueled by panic but guided by a calm discernment. Do I need to address this now? What would a reasonable person do? What small, sane step can I take? The frantic energy is gone, replaced by a steady focus. You carry the silence of the cosmos into the noise of your day. And that silence isn't empty, it's full of space, space to think, space to choose, space to breathe. The view from above is complete not when you see the universe, but when you use that vision to see your own life clearly. With clear, compassionate eyes, that quiet clarity is where the work starts. You've seen the vastness, you've felt the scale of it, and now you take that lens and turn it right onto whatever was troubling you. This is the proportionality test. It's the Stoic discipline of judgment but practical. You hold your problem in one hand, and in the other, you hold the perspective you just got. And you weigh them. You compare the emotional weight, that heavy, urgent feeling against its actual scale in time and space. The first impression, the raw panic, told you this was huge. It filled your whole world, but you just came back from a place where your whole world is a pale blue dot. So you ask a simple question. On the scale of a single human life, where does this sit? Will you remember this specific distress in 5 years? Probably not with the same intensity. In 10 years, likely a faded memory, a footnote. You think about people you admire, the ones who lived full lives. Their biographies aren't lists of every worry they ever had. They're records of how they navigated challenges, how they grew. Your current problem isn't the definition of your story. It's material for it. Then you pull the lens back further. You ask, on the scale of a century, how significant is this? 100 years from now, the outcome of this specific situation, whether that email was perfect, whether that social tension resolved smoothly, it won't matter. It'll be dust. It'll join the quiet archive of forgotten moments. This isn't depressing, it's liberating. It separates what feels urgent from what's actually important. The urgency is almost always an illusion, a mind in threat mode manufacturing it. Importance is something else. Importance is about character, how you choose to meet the moment. Whether you act with patience instead of rage, integrity instead of deceit, courage instead of avoidance, the outcome may fade, but the quality of your response becomes part of you. So you run the test. Say the problem is a critical comment from a colleague. The emotional weight feels like a public condemnation, a threat to your reputation. But its actual scale, it's a few spoken words in one room, one afternoon, one planet among billions. In the timeline of your career, it's a single data point. In the timeline of human endeavor, it's less than a whisper. This recalibration doesn't mean you ignore feedback. It means you can evaluate it without that layer of personal catastrophe. You can ask, is there truth here I can use? If yes, you learn. If no, you let it pass like weather. the emotional storm dissipates because you stop feeding it with a story of doom. You contain it within its true, modest size. That's the essence of Stoic wisdom. It's not about not feeling. It's about not being ruled by feelings that are out of proportion. The view from above gives the new measurement. The proportionality test is how you apply it. You take back authority over your own judgment. And from that place of calm, your next step isn't a reaction. It's a choice. That new measurement changes the questions you ask. You stop asking why this is happening to you. That question puts you at the center of a story you don't control. And you start asking something else. What, in this situation, is actually up to me? That's the core of Stoic practice, the dichotomy of control, and the view from above makes that distinction sharp. You've seen how small your problem is in the cosmos. Now you see how small your direct control is over the events themselves, and that's not a weakness. It's a kind of liberation. The Stoic teacher Epictetus started his handbook with a line. He wrote, "Some things are within our power, while others are not." It sounds simple, but then he lists them. Within our power are our opinions, our impulses, our desires, our aversions, everything that is our own doing. Not within our power are our body, our property, our reputation, everything that is not our own doing. He's drawing a line right through human experience. On one side, the internal world of choice, on the other, the external world of events, and most suffering comes from blurring that line. We try to control the weather. Other people's opinions, the stock market, the past. We pour energy into things we were never meant to command, and we neglect the one place where we are the absolute ruler. Our own mind, our judgments, the panic you felt about that email. It wasn't the email, it was your judgment about it, the story you told that it meant disaster. That judgment is yours, you wrote it, and you can revise it. Take a difficult conversation you need to have, you're dreading it. From the old perspective, the whole event feels like a threat. But with the dichotomy, you can separate it. What's not within your control, the other person's reaction, their tone, their past experiences, the exact words they'll choose. These are external events, things that happen. You can influence them, but you can't guarantee them. What is within your control, your preparation, your intention? The respect you choose to show, the clarity of your own words, your commitment to listening, your emotional composure, your ability to return to your breath if you get flustered. These are your actions, your judgments. This is your domain. When you make this separation, the problem transforms. It shrinks from an overwhelming monster into a set of manageable internal tasks. Your job is no longer to make the conversation go perfectly. That's impossible because it depends on another person's free will. Your job is to enter the conversation with clarity, respect, and courage. That is entirely within your power. You can succeed at that, no matter the outcome. That's the practical power of the shift. The view from above shows you the smallness of the event. The dichotomy shows you the smallness of your command over external outcomes, but it also shows you the immense power you hold inside. Your attention is no longer scattered, trying to manage the unmanageable. It's focused like a laser on what you can actually do. This focus is where agency is born, not the illusion of controlling the world, but the reality of steering your own ship through the weather. From that place of focused agency, anxiety doesn't stand a chance. It feeds on confusion, on blurred boundaries. When the line is clear, its energy has nowhere to go. A calm mind isn't passive. That's the distinction, the view from above. It doesn't mean you shrug and walk away. It leads to a different kind of engagement. When the emotional storm quiets, the landscape of the problem becomes clear. And in that clarity, you stop seeing an immovable wall. You start to see a path. Or at least you see the first step. Anxiety presents itself as a monolithic block. A single, huge, terrifying thing you have to solve all at once. It paralyzes you because the task feels impossible. But from this new vantage point, that block breaks apart. It resolves into its component parts. Some of those parts are external events, things you cannot control. And some are internal, your judgments, your next actions. These are yours. The practical power of this exercise is right here. It converts the frantic energy of worry into the focused energy of a single, constructive step. Your mind was spinning in circles trying to solve for everything. Now it can land on one thing, the one thing you can actually do today. Maybe your worry is about finances. From the anxious view, it's a looming catastrophe, a dark cloud over your future. But after the mental ascent, you see it differently. It's a set of numbers on a page in a specific country in this brief chapter of your life. The cloud breaks apart. You see the individual elements, your income, your expenses, your savings. The catastrophic story fades, and a simple, manageable question emerges. What is one small action I can take to improve this picture? It might be creating a simple budget for the first time, making one phone call to discuss a bill, researching a single educational resource. That's it. Not solving the entire problem in an afternoon, but taking one clear, controlled step forward. That step is a victory over the paralysis. Or perhaps it's a conflict with someone you care about. The anxious mind rehearses the entire painful conversation, imagines every bad outcome, and feels the weight of the whole relationship. From above, you see it as a single thread in the vast tapestry of your connection. A misunderstanding in one room on one afternoon. The emotional charge lessens. And the actionable step appears. It might be sending a simple text. I've been thinking about our last talk. Can we find a time to connect? You are not controlling their response. You are controlling your own outreach. You are choosing to open a door. This is how a shrunken problem becomes manageable. You're not ignoring it, you're addressing it with precision. The exercise removes the false urgency, the feeling that you must fix everything right now, and replaces it with a quiet confidence. You can only ever do the next right thing. And when you're not drowning in emotion, that next right thing is often obvious. It's small, it's humble, it's completely within your power. The Stoics called this acting with a reserved clause. You do your best, you take your clear, reasoned action, but you reserve in your mind the acceptance that the final outcome is not solely yours to command. You plant the seed, but you do not command the weather. This mindset allows you to act fully without being attached to a specific result. Your peace comes from the quality of your effort, not from the guarantee of a particular ending. So the journey ends where it began, back in the room, but now you have a map. The anxiety that felt like a prison becomes simply the signal that something needs your attention. And with a clearer head, you know exactly what that attention should be. One email, one conversation, one small plan, executed not from panic, but from a place of calm, proportional understanding. This is the real transformation, not escaping your life, but engaging with it one deliberate step at a time. The deadline on your screen, it feels like a tyrant. It shouts from every corner of your mind, and a simple project becomes this impossible mountain. You feel it in your shoulders, that tightness, in your breath which gets quick and shallow. The room seems to shrink, the walls closing in around you, and this one task. That's the raw impression of work stress. It feels absolute, like your entire worth, your entire future, hangs on meeting this one moment. But you can begin an ascent. Let the walls of the room fall away. See your building from above. It's just one structure among hundreds in your business district. Zoom out further. See your city's skyline. In that vast grid of lights and glass, your office is a single box. Your computer inside that box is one tiny point of light. And the deadline on that screen becomes a digital notation, one specific coordinate in an entire metropolis. From this height, the urgent alarm in your chest starts to soften. It becomes a localized event, not a universal condition. Now pull back in time. Think about your career as a whole. A timeline stretching back years and forward into possibilities. Place this specific deadline on that line. It's a single point, a marker. Think back to other deadlines you've faced, the ones that felt just as crushing in their moment. Where are they now? They're in the past, completed or missed and survived. Each one was a wave. It rose up, seemed towering, and then it passed. This current pressure is just another wave in that sequence. Its power to define you is an illusion granted by proximity. Now take the widest view. A century from now, the specific outcome of this project, whether it was delivered at 4 p.m. or 4 a.m., it will be irrelevant. It will belong to the quiet archives of forgotten business cycles. The company itself may have transformed or ceased to exist. The technology you're using will seem charmingly archaic. This isn't to say your work lacks meaning. It's to calibrate its true emotional weight. Your professional contribution matters. It matters in the context of service, learning, and livelihood. But the acute panic of a ticking clock, that panic, is almost never proportional to the event's lasting significance. This recalibration is what frees your mental energy. The stress was consuming fuel meant for focus, for creativity, for solving the actual problem. When you see the deadline as a temporary, survivable event on a long timeline, you reclaim that fuel. The mountain becomes a hill. The impossible task resolves into a series of small, clear steps. You can now ask the practical question, not how will I ever get this done, but what is the very next thing I need to do? The answer is always simple. Open the document, sketch the first outline, write the first sentence, make the first phone call. That shift is everything. You are no longer wrestling with a monster of your own mind's creation. You are simply a skilled person in a room on a planet doing the next piece of work. The quality of your attention improves because it's no longer divided between the task and the fear of the task. You enter a state of flow not by escaping the pressure, but by seeing it in its true, diminished size. The work remains, your capability remains, but the suffocating narrative of catastrophe has been replaced. Replaced by the quiet hum of focused engagement, and from that place you often discover the work itself is not the enemy. It was the story of overwhelm that was holding you back all along. A sharp comment from a friend can stick with you. It echoes. You keep hearing it again, and it feels fresh each time. You go over the tone, the exact words, trying to find some meaning in it. It feels unfair. It stings your pride, and in that moment, the whole relationship can feel fragile, like this one thing has shown a real crack. This is maybe where the view from above works best. Because social pain is so personal, it's easy to misjudge its size, so let the room dissolve. See the two of you from above, not as two people in this charged moment. See the place a kitchen, a text thread, a crowded room from that higher point. It's just one setting, one of millions where people talk every day, and the words that were said there, they're just sound now. They've dissipated into the air, they're gone. What's left is your memory of them, and the story you've tied to that memory. Now pull back further, in time. See the whole timeline of your relationship with this person. Picture it as a long, winding road. There are stretches of easy laughter, shared meals, quiet support, and there are bumps too, misunderstandings, busy periods where you were distant, other disagreements. Take this current hurt, place it on that road. It's a single point, a pothole. It is not the road itself. From this height you can see the whole journey. The conflict is contained. It had a start. And it will have an end. It doesn't erase all the miles you've traveled together. Now do the most powerful part. Shift your gaze. Consider the other person's full life. You're seeing them in one frustrated moment through the lens of your own hurt, but they have their own entire cosmos. They woke up this morning with private worries. They're carrying pressures you know nothing about, a difficult talk with their family, a nagging health concern, a professional disappointment they haven't shared. Their sharp tone, that careless remark, it likely had very little to do with you. It was probably just overflow. from a cup already filled to the brim with their own unseen struggles. This isn't about excusing unkindness, it's about understanding where it came from. When you see the other person as a complex, struggling human on their own journey, and not just a character in the story of how they wronged you, the hurt starts to change. It softens from a personal attack into a symptom of their own human condition. Empathy becomes possible. You realize they're not a villain. They're just another traveler on a difficult road who lost their footing for a second and bumped into you. The lesson is about proportion. Most social wounds are minor. In the long story of a connection, will this argument matter in a month, in a year? In the grand narrative of a friendship that lasts decades, it'll likely be a forgotten paragraph. A relationship's strength isn't measured by the absence of conflict. It's measured by the capacity to repair it, to see the smallness of the scratch against the strength of the bond. This perspective gives you a quiet power, the power to not take the bait, to not escalate, to respond from calm curiosity instead of defensive anger. You might just say, "It seemed like you were upset earlier. Is everything okay?" That question comes from the higher vantage point. It acknowledges the event without being consumed by it. It seeks connection over being right. Using the view from above on social friction doesn't make you a doormat. It makes you a diplomat. It lets you defend your boundaries with clarity, not hostility. You can address the issue without the story that this person is now your adversary. You see them as they are, a fellow, flawed human, sharing this brief, beautiful, confusing life with you. And from that place of widened understanding, the path forward is rarely about winning an argument. It's about choosing to repair a connection, one compassionate step at a time. A financial worry has a specific weight. It's concrete. It's a number with consequences. You get a bill and it's larger than you thought. The market dips and you see your savings shrink. That number on the screen isn't just data. It feels like a judgment on your security, on your future. The immediate reaction is to stare at it, to let it fill your vision until it blocks out everything else. This is where the practice finds a powerful use. Let that bill be your starting point. Feel the tightness it creates, and then begin the ascent. See the paper or the screen from above. It's one document on one desk in one room. Pull back further. See your home from the outside. This financial event is contained inside those walls. It's a single transaction in the ongoing story of your household. Zoom out to the scale of your city. Thousands of other households are getting similar notices. Making similar calculations, feeling that same pinch of concern right now. Your specific worry is a shared experience. It's happening in countless variations across the grid of streets below. Now the crucial shift, pull back in time. Don't look at this as an isolated event. See it placed on the long, winding road of your financial life. That road stretches back decades. To your first allowance, your first paycheck, it winds through periods of scarcity and periods of ease. It's seen unexpected windfalls and unexpected setbacks. Place this current worry on that timeline. It's one point, a dip in the road, a temporary condition. Think about your financial life not as a fixed state, but as a process. A dynamic process of earning, saving, spending, adapting. You've navigated changes before, a job loss that led to a better opportunity, an emergency expense you managed to cover, a period of frugality that built a buffer. Your entire history is evidence of your capacity to adapt. This current challenge is just the next iteration of that process. It's not the end of the story, it's the next paragraph. The Stoic principle here cuts to the core. Money itself is an external, it's unstable, subject to market forces, inflation, chance. To tie your peace of mind directly to its fluctuations is to hand your serenity over to something you don't control. What you do control is your relationship to it. Your actions, your judgments, your character in how you manage it. The virtuous action is prudent management, not panic. Prudence is the quiet, reasoned assessment. of what you have, what you need, and what the next sensible step is. When you view your finances from the lifetime scale, the urgent panic of a single bill transforms. It becomes a logistical question. It moves from the emotional realm to the practical. The question changes. It's no longer, how will I ever survive this? It becomes, what is the most prudent way to address this given my overall situation? That might mean creating a simple budget to see the full picture. It might mean making one phone call to arrange a payment plan. It might mean deciding to postpone a non-essential purchase this month. These are small, controlled actions. They are within your power. Fixating on the external number, watching the market ticker with dread, that's not within your power. It consumes energy and yields nothing but anxiety. The view from above on finances reveals a truth. Your security was never in the number. It's in your ability to respond, to adapt, to make sound decisions with what you have. A lifetime is long enough. Economies cycle, careers pivot, fortunes change. The only constant is your capacity to meet each phase with reason and resourcefulness. So when that feeling of financial dread arises, see it as a signal, not a signal of impending doom, a signal to engage your prudence, to zoom out, to see this single day, to point in the context of your entire resilient history. And to take the one small, clear-eyed step that's available to you right now. That step, taken from a place of proportion, is how you build a life of stability. Not from perfect circumstances, from unwavering character. Health is what everything else stands on. So if that feels unsteady, then everything else seems to start to shake. A new pain, a symptom that won't go away, an appointment you're afraid to go to, these things have a certain force. They can make your whole world feel small, just the size of a body, the size of a fear. And the worry isn't just in your head, you feel it. A pressure in your chest, your heart beating fast, your mind running through every bad possibility. This is where that wider view needs to be used carefully. The point isn't to ignore real problems, it's to make a little space, a space between you and that storm of anxiety, so you can see a bit more clearly. Start by just noticing the feeling. You feel the worry in your body. That's the first thing. From the old, close-up view, that feeling becomes everything. It becomes a prediction, a future that's only limitation, only loss. The practice is to pull back gently. See your body from a point of observation with some compassion. You are not just these symptoms, you are not just these fears, you are the one noticing them. You're in the room feeling this, but you are also more than this one moment of distress. Then widen the view through time. Think of your health not as today's worry, not as a single snapshot, but as the whole story of your body, a story that started years ago. It has chapters of feeling strong, of getting better from things before, of resilience you've already shown. This current concern, no matter how big it feels, is one page in that long book. It is not the whole story. People live full lives with ongoing conditions. They move through the changes that come with age. Their identity isn't swallowed by a diagnosis. A life is defined by how it's lived, not just by what is managed. The Stoic strength to build here is courage, not fearlessness, but the choice to do what's right even when fear is there. Courage here means focusing on what you can actually control right now. You might not control the final diagnosis. You don't control aging, but you do control your next actions. You control making that appointment. You control following the advice you get. You control the kindness you show your body through rest, through food, through moving gently. You control where you put your attention, on the scary story about tomorrow or on the practical care you can give today. That mental shift makes the difference clear. From the higher point of a whole lifetime, you see that a life is measured in moments of connection, of love, of making things, of giving. Health is the container for that life, and looking after it is important. But being afraid of it eventually fading is like being afraid of sunset while you're missing the whole day. The anxiety about a possible illness tomorrow steals the actual wellness you have today. So the practice is to come back again and again to the present moment, to the feeling of breath going in and out, to the warmth of a drink, to the conversation happening right now. This is where life happens, not in the imagined future, but in the real, tangible present you can still feel and appreciate. When the health anxiety comes up, see it as a signal. A signal to take a careful, caring step, to talk to a professional, to listen to your body, to make a supportive choice, but then let the endless speculation go. Put that worry on the timeline of your whole life. Put it on the map of a huge, unfolding universe. See its real size, its proportional size. It is one part of being human. A challenge to meet with courage and clear-eyed care, not a monster to feed with endless dread. This view doesn't cure sickness, but it can cure the extra suffering, the terror that so often comes with it. It lets you face reality with a steadier heart, to find some dignity and some peace inside whatever chapter you're in. This perspective isn't about putting a wall between you and what you feel. That's a key point. It's easy to get the exercise wrong, to think it means becoming cold or detached, somehow above normal human emotion. That would be using it wrong. The Stoics weren't teaching numbness, they were teaching wisdom, and wisdom asks you to feel the emotion, to process it, and then to choose how you respond. One common mistake is using the view from above to just suppress what you're feeling. You have a real grief, a real hurt, a real flash of anger, and you try to skip past it by immediately telling yourself, in the grand scheme of things, this doesn't matter. That isn't processing, that's bypassing. It's like seeing a warning light on your dashboard and putting a piece of tape over it. The light is still on, the problem is still there, you've just decided not to look. The emotion is information, it's telling you something matters. The exercise isn't about silencing that signal, it's about understanding it without letting that signal drown out everything else. You let yourself feel the sting of the comment, the weight of the loss, you acknowledge it, and then, from that place of acknowledgement, you can choose to apply the wider lens. To ask, given that this hurts, what's the proportional way, the constructive way to move through it? The goal is wise judgment, not emotional absence. Another trap is sliding from perspective into nihilism. That's the thought that if my problems are so small in the universe, then nothing I do has any meaning. Why bother? That misses the point completely. The vastness of space and time doesn't erase meaning, it frames it. It tells us meaning isn't something out there in the stars waiting to be found. Meaning is something we create right here in our brief chapter. Precisely because our time is limited and our world is precious, what we do carries more weight, not less. Choosing kindness matters because it brightens this tiny corner. Pursuing integrity matters because it strengthens the fabric of our shared human experiment. The exercise shrinks the ego's drama, but it should expand your sense of responsibility to the life you're actually living. It's not that nothing matters. It's that only a few things truly do, and now you have the clarity to see what they are. Maybe the most practical pitfall is using this as an excuse for inaction. To look at a difficult duty, a necessary confrontation, a complex project, and say, well, it's all just dust in the end, and then avoid it. That turns a tool for courageous engagement into a license for passivity. Marcus Aurelius never used his meditations to skip a day of governing. He used them to govern better. The purpose of seeing the smallness of a problem is to reduce the paralyzing fear around it, so you can address it effectively. It's to convert, I can't possibly handle this, into, this is a manageable task I will now begin. If you find yourself using the cosmic view to avoid your real-world responsibilities, you've inverted the practice. You've traded the prison of anxiety for the prison of apathy, and neither is freedom. The true purpose of this mental exercise is liberation through right-sized judgment. It's the freedom that comes when you're no longer tricked by your mind's magnification, when you can hold a feeling without being crushed by it, when you can see the scale of your life and feel not despair, but a focused determination to live it well. It's a lens for bringing the world into proper focus, so you can engage with it clearly, compassionately, effectively. The stars aren't an escape hatch. They're a compass helping you navigate the terrain of your one, actual, beautiful life. The stars are a compass. You have to read it every day. This perspective is a skill. And like any skill, it needs practice. It has to become a habit. Otherwise, it's just a nice idea, something you remember sometimes, not a tool you use when you need it. So you make it part of your day. You don't need a big meditation. You need a tiny ritual. The Stoics called this daily training ascesis. It wasn't harsh discipline. It was quiet work, strengthening the mind like an athlete trains the body. Your mental muscle needs that exercise. Start with a trigger, something you already do. Every day, that first sip of coffee, sitting down at your desk, brushing your teeth at night, the minute before sleep, that habit is your anchor. You attach the new practice to it. Now the practice itself, start small, painfully small. Don't try for the galaxies on day one. Commit to 60 seconds, just 1 minute. In that minute, you do the first part. You ground yourself with one breath, then you pull back, feel your feet on the floor, see your room from above, see your street, your neighborhood, see the whole city spread out. Your home is one tiny point in it. Hold that image for a few heartbeats. That's it. You've recalibrated your scale. You've reminded your brain your concern is located. Not everywhere, then you return back to your body, to the taste of coffee, to the task at hand. The whole thing takes less time than scrolling. The power is in the consistency, not the duration. Doing this for 60 seconds every morning is more powerful than a 30-minute version every 2 weeks. Repetition rewires the pathway. It teaches your mind a new default. When stress hits later, that pathway is familiar. You'll find yourself automatically taking a half step back, just enough to get some air. This is Stoic training, a small daily deposit into your account of calm. You're building a reserve of perspective for when life demands it. Seneca would end his day with a review. He'd look back on his actions, asking where he strayed from reason. You can use a similar moment. Lying in bed instead of replaying worries. Take 60 seconds. Zoom out to the city lights. See your day as one small scene in the vast theater of that city's life. It softens the edges of the day's events. It lets you rest. Not in ignorance of your problems, but in a clearer understanding of their proportion. The goal is to make the view from above not something you do, but a lens you wear. A subtle filter for seeing your world. It starts with 60 seconds tied to your morning routine. A brief flight to get the lay of the land before your day's journey. That simple daily ascent builds a life not free from storms, but with an unshakable horizon to see them against. A single tool is useful, but a complete toolkit that changes things. The view from above works best when you combine it with other Stoic practices. It becomes a lens, it clarifies the others, it makes the whole philosophy more practical. More powerful in your daily life. Think of it as a cornerstone, a foundational perspective. It makes your other choices more deliberate. Take the Stoic practice of evening reflection. You review your day without a wider lens. This can turn into a replay. Every mistake, every moment of irritation, every social stumble, it becomes a list of failures. And that feeds anxiety. But if you start your reflection with just a minute of the view from above, the whole tone changes. Before you think about the details, you zoom out. You see your day not as a series of personal triumphs and disasters. You see it as one small, finite day in a vast city on an ancient planet. You see yourself as one person among billions doing your best. From that calm vantage point, you can ask the reflective questions with curiosity, not self-criticism. Where did I act with patience today? Where did I let a minor annoyance steal my focus? The answers become data for growth, not evidence for a verdict. the perspective shrinks the emotional charge around the events. It allows you to learn from them without being crushed by them. Now pair it with another tool, the premeditation of adversity. This is the practice of calmly considering what could go wrong. It's not about pessimism. It's about preparedness, but if done from a place of fear, it can become a rehearsal for disaster. It amplifies anxiety instead of reducing it. This is where the view from above comes in as a necessary follow-up. After you've thought through a potential challenge, a difficult conversation, a possible financial setback, you then apply the cosmic and temporal lens. You see that even if this feared event comes to pass, it will be a single point on the map of your life. It will occupy a limited amount of time and space. It will not be the end of your story. This practice tempers the fear with scale. It allows you to prepare for adversity without becoming emotionally hostage to it. You move from "what if this terrible thing happens" to "if this challenge arises, here is how I can meet it," knowing it is a manageable part of your journey. These combinations show the holistic nature of Stoicism. It's not a collection of random tips, it's an integrated system for living. The view from above provides the stable horizon. Other practices, like focusing on what you control or acting with virtue, are the steps you take on that stable ground. One practice supports the others. When you feel overwhelmed by a duty, the view from above shrinks the imagined burden. It allows you to see the next clear action. When you are tempted by anger, that same perspective helps you see the other person's humanity. The smallness of the provocation, it makes forgiveness or a calm response more accessible. This integration turns philosophy from a theory into a lived experience. You're not just remembering a quote from Marcus Aurelius in a moment of stress. You're engaging a practiced mental routine. You're using a set of interlocking tools to navigate the complexity of being human. The goal is to build a resilient inner citadel, a place of calm from which you can engage the world effectively. The view from above is the watchtower of that citadel. It gives you the sightline. From there, you can see the terrain clearly. You can decide your path wisely and move forward with a steady heart. That final acceptance, that's where this practice meets Amor, Fati. Loving your fate. When you keep looking at your life from that cosmic distance, something changes. You start to see your own path with all its particular troubles and joys, not as some random accident you're fighting against. You see it as a necessary part of something vast, a necessary part of the design. Your problems stop being just obstacles to resent. They become the specific terrain you were meant to walk. The raw material for who you are. Marcus Aurelius kept coming back to this. He wrote, "Everything suits me that suits your designs, O my universe. Nothing is too early or too late if it's in your time. All is fruit for me that your seasons bring. All of it comes from you, all of it exists in you, all of it returns to you." Read that slowly. Everything suits me that suits your designs. That's the mindset this view cultivates. It's the deepest acceptance. It's looking at everything, the promotions and the layoffs, the easy friends and the hard goodbyes, the healthy days and the sick seasons, and seeing it all as one story. Your story, the one you're actually built to live. This isn't giving up, it's cooperation, active, willing cooperation. Amor Fati means loving your fate, not just putting up with it. It means looking at the very thing that causes you pain and finding a way to say, "This too is for me. This is part of my work." When you see your life from that starry height, you see the hard parts aren't mistakes. They're essential contrasts. They're the friction that shapes your strength, the loss that makes you able to love more deeply, the limit that forces your creativity. Think of it like a sculptor. A master sculptor doesn't look at a rough block of marble and despair. They don't see a problem. They see the perfect material for the statue that's inside. The hard edges, the stubborn veins, the flaws, those aren't reasons to quit. They're the guides. They decide the final shape. They demand skill and patience and a real respect for the material itself. Your life is that block, your circumstances, your relationships, your setbacks, they're the inherent qualities of the stone. The view from above lets you step back and see the whole block. To feel its weight, its texture, its potential, Amor Fati is the love you develop for that specific block, the decision to work with it, not against it. To shape your character from the very things you might have cursed. So where does gratitude come in? It just emerges when you accept that your path, with all its rocks and climbs, is yours, and that it's happening on this one fragile world in a silent cosmos. A thankfulness can rise up. Not for the pain itself, but for the chance to meet it, for the consciousness that lets you experience this strange, brief trip, for the ability to grow through the difficulty. You can feel gratitude for the simple fact of being, that out of all the possible arrangements of matter and energy in the universe, you get to be this conscious self, right here, right now, facing this particular set of challenges. This perspective changes how you engage. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And you start asking, what is this asking of me? The answer is always the same. It's asking for your courage, your integrity, your compassion. It's asking you to play your part, however small it looks from the stars, with your whole heart. That's the quiet end of this mental exercise. It starts by shrinking a problem through scale. It moves into managing it with reason, and it ends with this embrace. A quiet, powerful embrace of your one and only life, exactly as it's unfolding, not in spite of the difficulties, but because of them, because they are the chisel. And you are both the sculptor and the stone. Resilience isn't something you just find when the storm hits. You build it before, in the calm. That's what this daily exercise does. Each time you pull back to see the bigger picture, you're not just handling one worry. You're reinforcing a pathway in your brain. You're teaching it a new default for when things get hard. So when the next shock comes, a loss, a setback, a deep uncertainty, your mind isn't starting from zero. It has a route to follow, a practiced route, one that leads to perspective, not panic. That's how this builds resilience. It's repetitive training, quiet training, for the moments that matter. Think of it like physical strength. You don't wait for an emergency to try lifting something heavy. You train with smaller weights consistently, so when the crisis comes, your body knows what to do. Your muscles respond from memory. The same is true for your mental endurance. By practicing this shift on small things, a traffic jam, a rude comment, a minor letdown, you're building that muscle memory for the larger hardships. You're conditioning your mind to default to a more balanced state, a less reactive one, so when the truly heavy weight drops, that memory engages. Almost automatically, a part of you begins that gentle ascent. It seeks the wider view. It looks for proportion. This isn't a trick to erase pain. It's a learned skill to contain it, to understand its size, to navigate through it without drowning. The Stoics called this strength apatheia. It's often misunderstood as apathy, but it's not a lack of feeling. It's freedom from being ruled by destructive passions. It's equanimity, a steady inner calm. It lets you feel grief or fear or anger without being shattered by them. It lets you keep your reasoning mind online even when your heart is aching. This practice is the training ground for that equanimity. It's the rehearsal. You practice seeing the smallness of a problem, not to belittle it, but to remember that you are larger. Your consciousness, your capacity to observe and choose, is larger than any single event that happens to you. Consider two people facing the same serious hardship. Say, a difficult health diagnosis. The first person's mind is untrained. It contracts around the news immediately. It magnifies it until it's the only reality. A terrifying totality with no exit. Every thought is a catastrophic prediction. The suffering isn't just the illness, it's the terror that amplifies it tenfold. The second person has practiced this shift. They feel the same initial shock, the same fear, but almost instinctively, a quieter voice begins to speak. It invites them to pull back, to see this challenge not as the end of their story, but as a difficult chapter in a long biography, to see their body not as a traitor, but as a fellow traveler needing extra care on a rugged part of the road, to place their personal struggle inside the shared human experience of facing mortality. That doesn't cure the disease, but it changes the experience of it. It creates a space between the person and the pain, a space where courage can live, and acceptance and clear-headed action. That's the resilience this builds. The ability to endure hardship with your eyes open, to acknowledge the full weight of a situation while knowing you have the strength to carry it, because you've carried smaller versions 1,000 times before. In your mind, you've proven to yourself over and over in those short daily increments that your perspective is flexible, that you are not trapped in the close-up view, that you can always choose to look from the watchtower, and from that height no storm, however violent, can ever obscure the entire horizon. The sky is always there, waiting for you to remember it. There's a term for this in psychology now: cognitive distancing, sometimes called decentering. It's when you can look at your own thoughts and feelings from a little bit of a distance. Not as storms you're caught inside, but more like clouds passing in the sky. That space, that mental space, is what research shows builds emotional resilience. It lets you see a worry as just a pattern of thinking, a temporary one, not a command about what's real. So when you do the view from above, you're doing a kind of cognitive distancing. You're creating that space for yourself. You're becoming the observer of your own inner weather, from a calm spot above the clouds, and there's a physical version of this. Something a very small group of people have felt, astronauts, when they look out the window and see the Earth, whole and alone in the black void. Many of them report a sudden shift. They call it the overview effect. It's not just seeing it, it's a feeling, a deep, intuitive understanding of unity and fragility. National borders vanish. Petty conflicts seem absurd. A sense of peace and connection takes over. Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, described it as an overwhelming sense of oneness. He said it wasn't intellectual, it was visceral, emotional. And what's fascinating is how closely that mirrors the Stoic goal. They achieve through physical distance what the Stoics aimed for with mental discipline. A shift in identity, from a separate self with separate problems to being part of an interconnected whole. Their personal concerns get recalibrated against the backdrop of the planet itself. Anxiety in that moment has no place to stand, so there's this bridge between ancient wisdom and modern understanding. 2,000 years ago, a Roman emperor wrote instructions for a state of mind. A state we now know has a basis in psychology and neurology, a state we've seen triggered by literally leaving the world. The Stoics didn't have rockets, but they understood the architecture of the mind. They found a way to launch consciousness into orbit, using just intention and imagination. That convergence gives it credibility. It's not mystical, it's a cognitive tool. It aligns with how our brains process scale and threat. When you feel that clutch of panic, your brain is stuck in a narrow, survival-focused mode. The practice of zooming out through memory, imagination, a picture of Earth, it interrupts that loop. It activates different pathways. The parts for big picture thinking, for awe, for compassion. So the next time you feel that tightening, you have a choice. You can stay in the close-up where the problem fills the frame. Or you can engage this capacity. You can take that mental journey, the one astronauts take physically, the one Stoics have taken philosophically for millennia. You can grant yourself the overview, and from that silent, star-filled vantage point, the most pressing question might change. It might not be how to survive your problem, but how to fully appreciate the fact that you're here at all, capable of facing it. The room is quiet. Find a place to sit or stand. Let your hands rest. You don't have to close your eyes, just let your gaze soften. Start with the ground. Feel the pressure of your feet on the floor, the weight of your body in the chair. Notice the air moving in your lungs, a slow breath in, a slow breath out. There's nowhere you need to be, just here, in this moment, in this body. That's your starting point. Now, in your mind, begin to pull back gently. See the room from a new angle, as if you're floating near the ceiling. You see the furniture, the shapes of the windows. The light falling a certain way. Your own body is there, part of the scene. It's peaceful. From here, the sounds around you, a distant hum, the quiet, they seem softer. Further away, you're observing the space you're in continue to rise. The walls of the room seem to grow transparent. You see the full shape of your home from outside. Its roof, its doors, its place on the land. Your street stretches out in both directions. The other homes, each with its own quiet story inside. The car in the driveway is just a small object. A detail. You rise higher and your neighborhood unfolds like a map. The patterns of the streets, the green patches of parks, the clusters of buildings. From this height, your home is one small point. Thousands of people are living their lives down there. Your concern, whatever it is contained in one of those tiny structures. It has an address, it is located. Let the view expand. Your whole town or city comes into view, its borders, the rivers or highways running through it. The downtown clustered with taller buildings. The murmur of the city is a soft, collective sound now. Your neighborhood is just one texture in this tapestry. You can't pick out your own street anymore. It's woven into the whole. Your life is one thread among millions. Hold that feeling for a moment, the feeling of being part of something much larger than your immediate worry. Now pull back further. See the landscape around your city, the fields, the forests, the hills. Watch as the view widens to show your entire country, its shape familiar from maps. From here, human borders look like faint lines drawn on a living canvas. What's real is the land itself, ancient and enduring. Your city is now a small smudge of light on that canvas. Your problem held within it is a single point of data. On this scale, it is very, very small. Keep going. The continent takes shape connected to others by vast oceans. You see the great weather systems moving, clouds swirling over the landmass, and then you see the planet, the whole Earth, a blue and white marble hanging in the profound silence of space. It's breathtakingly beautiful and heartbreakingly alone. All of human history has happened on that fragile sphere. Every joy, every struggle, every dream. And your life, with all its complexity, is happening there too, on that one small world. Let the silence of the cosmos surround that image. There's a deep peace in this vastness. Now add the dimension of time. As you look at that blue planet, see the timeline of a human life. Your life. See it as a single, bright chapter in a story that spans centuries. See the generations that came before you, people who loved, worried, and hoped just as you do. Their challenges, which felt so immediate to them, are now part of history's quiet stream. See the generations that will come after, who will walk their own paths long after your chapter is complete. Your current concern, no matter how heavy, is a temporary event on this long, long timeline. It has a beginning, a middle, and it will have an end. Rest in this dual perspective for a few heartbeats, the spatial and the temporal. You are a conscious being on a small planet, living a brief, meaningful chapter. From here, what does your worry look like? Not as a monster, but as a manageable event, a specific challenge in a specific place. In a finite amount of time. Now, slowly begin your return. Bring your attention back to the blue planet. Watch as you move toward it through the atmosphere. Over the familiar contours of your continent, your country, you descend over your city, seeing its lights again. You find your neighborhood, your street. The shape of your home. You drift back through the walls into the room. You settle gently back into your body, feeling the chair again, the floor under your feet. The rise and fall of your chest with each breath. You are here now, but you've brought a souvenir back from the journey. It's a new sense of scale. Take a moment to turn your attention with this new calm to the thing that was troubling you. See it freshly with this perspective. What is its true size? It's likely not a catastrophe. It's a task, a conversation, a piece of information to process. From this place of quiet proportion, the next step often becomes clear. It is usually small, simple, and completely within your power to do. This is the clarity you were seeking. Not above your life, but fully within it, with a steady heart and a clear mind. That clarity you find in meditation, it's not supposed to stay up there. You bring it back down, you let it settle into your ordinary day until it's just the air. It becomes your new default, a quiet awareness behind your eyes. It colors how you see things. You don't have to run the whole exercise every time something small goes wrong. You start to feel it in your bones, a delayed train. You don't get a surge of rage. You just see it for what it is, a tiny hiccup in a huge, humming city. A critical comment might still sting, but the sting is contained. You recognize it as a few words from one person, on one planet, among all possible interactions. The emotion doesn't vanish, it just loses its authority to declare an emergency. That's the Stoic steady mind, not a mind that feels nothing, a mind that isn't overthrown by every feeling. The ancient philosophers talked about the sage, someone with unshakable wisdom. We're not sages. The goal isn't perfection, it's direction. It's moving toward that steadiness daily. To internalize this is to walk with a hidden compass, one that points true north toward proportion. When a problem lands on your desk, your first instinct isn't panic. It's a gentle recalibration, a shift in the lens that puts the event in a larger frame. You might not even view from above, you just feel the space it creates. A deadline becomes a task to complete, not an existential verdict. A financial worry becomes a spreadsheet, not a prophecy. A health concern becomes a series of steps, not a spiral. This background awareness is your defense against life's constant changes, because you're no longer surprised by them. You expect the waves, you know the ocean. From that steady place, you see each wave for what it is: water that will rise, crest, and dissolve back into the sea. Your job isn't to stop the waves. It's to navigate them without capsizing, and you navigate from understanding. You carry the cosmos with you, not as a burden, but as a light that shows everything in its true size. In that light, your life's work isn't about battling an unfair world. It's about dancing with the world as it is, meeting each moment, pleasant or difficult, with the right response. Not the overblown reaction of a frightened ego, but the measured action of a conscious participant in a grand story. That's the quiet freedom, not freedom from circumstance. Freedom within it, the freedom to look at your life in all its messy, transient detail and to engage with it fully, from a place of calm proportion. You started in a room with a problem pressing in. You learned to step back, in your mind first, then across the map, and then into space, into time. You have this tool now, this exercise. It's old, it doesn't belong to one time because the need for it is always there. The point isn't to make you feel small, it's to make your judgment clear. To see your problems in their true size, so you can meet them not with panic but with action. That's the Stoic path, from feeling overwhelmed to seeing clearly. From noise to a kind of quiet, you remember the steps, ground yourself where you are, then move out through space and then through time, and you come back with that new measurement. To guide what you do, the goal is action, the right action, courage, prudence, compassion. You can choose those once the fog lifts, once you see the real proportion of things. Seneca wrote about this to his friend Lucilius. He said it's a great thing to play the man, to withstand the impact of circumstances, and to see clearly what helps and what doesn't. Without being confused by how things look on the surface. That's the freedom to see clearly, to withstand the impact, and to know what matters. The practice is yours now. You can try the guided version, see what shifts for you. Let us know in the comments what you find, and if this walk through practical wisdom was helpful, consider subscribing. We explore ideas like this, not as philosophy from a distance, but as tools for a calmer life, a more resilient one. Thank you for walking this path.